If you thought 2025 was a tough year for teaching, just wait until 2026. And I'm not trying to say that to scare you or anything like that. I'm saying that because clarity is what keeps teachers in the game. In this video, we're going to be breaking down everything that teachers need to know going into 2026. And before we jump into that, I want to talk about where teachers are at right now. The statistics say that 53% of teachers say that they're already burned out. 66% say that they would leave the profession today if they had someplace else to go. 25% of teachers are going to leave at the Christmas break. And finally, 300,000 teachers leave the profession every year, and 270,000 of those teachers never return. And so, Doc, here's the thing, is that those numbers, those are not abstract. Those are classrooms, and those are ultimately people. And so from your perspective, what are the statistics revealing about the emotional and mental state of teachers headed into 2026?
So we're definitely at a crisis level right now. If we look at it, the nation is feeling this just intense pain, and we have got to figure out a way not to become part of that statistic. And it is super important for teachers to work on themselves and help themselves to keep moving forward. Because like you said, the system is really proving that a lot of people are leaving. We even see that some colleges aren't even getting students in the education departments in order to become teachers. So we really need to figure out some ways that we can make sure that we stay healthy in 2026.
If there was something at the top of your list, what do you think it would be?
First and foremost, we have got to slow down. It is like the spinning plates. Teachers just love to have a whole bunch of plates spinning only because we're asked to spin so many at the same time. So I really think slowing down, and listen, this is guilty as charged. I really think slowing down is going to be essential in 2026 because multitasking doesn't work. It only works for about 2% of the population effectively. Then the rest of us that think we're multitaskers, again, hi, my name is Lisa. But so those of us that think we are multitaskers, really our productivity drops by like 40%. Some studies show. So it's really going to be slowing down and honing in to whatever it might be.
So I think one of the things that teachers struggle with is that we're like type A driven individuals, and we like to go from task to task. And what I mean by that is, when we complete a task, it makes us feel good because we get this big shot of dopamine in our brain. And so the next thing you know, we're trying to get as many tasks done as we possibly can. What is a replacement behavior that we could put into place of this multitasking and this drive to get things done that would be more beneficial for us?
Well, I think it's important to remember the drive, right? So, but I think the other thing is understanding that we're not lazy and, we're not quitters if we just focus on one thing at a time. Sometimes we think carrying all the bags at once, for those of us that go grocery shopping and have to bring them all in on one trip, it's the same kind of thing, right? So just like you said, we feel that sense of accomplishment. Well, what if we flip that? And what if we say to ourselves, hey, if I can focus for 30 minutes on this one task, whether it's cleaning my emails, maybe it's 30 minutes of reading something that you really want to make sure you understand that when you're teaching it, you have a little more confidence. But whatever it might be, it's kind of just flipping it a little bit to understand that you can have that same sense of accomplishment for something that you focus on and slow down to do for 30 minutes.
So, Doc, one of the things that we talk about at Teacher Talk all the time is making micro breaks throughout your day, something that you incorporate into your lifestyle. And we say 3 to 5 minutes. We have a resource, and it's a 5-minute reset, and it's free. It's 100% free. It's always free. It's down in the description box. I'm actually going to put up a QR code for it here in just a minute. But how can micro breaks help us as it relates to just getting things slowed down?
Again, it's kind of that spinning wheel, and being able to stick in it and stop it from just spinning like crazy. It's letting our whole body just kind of come down for a minute. When you focus on one thing instead of all the things flooding your mind and your senses at once, it can bring about a calm that I think we're almost not used to. It's like we're used to our engines running at 4,500 RPMs throughout the entire day, just really high revving.
Yeah. Hmm.
So we have to teach our nervous system again to be able to kind of breathe throughout the day. And that is definitely part of slowing down.
So, Doc, you make the perfect point right there, is that whenever we get into overdrive mode, this
Mm-hmm.
idea of got to get it done, got to go. And
Mm-hmm.
if I don't, then I'm falling behind. And then I'm obviously, the conclusion is I must be a failure as a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
That puts the nervous system into overdrive, which then in turn, over a long period of time, puts the brain into fight or flight mode. And
Mm-hmm.
from what I can understand, once the brain goes into fight or flight mode, then all of a sudden the body feels like it has to do something, because that's the way it protects itself. The brain says you got to be doing something, or else you're going to make yourself vulnerable to an attack. Am I off track on that? Is that crazy, or am I dead on it here?
No, you're dead on it. And I think what happens too, especially for those of us that have been teaching for a long time, we've watched coworkers try to go at 85 miles an hour every
Hmm.
day, all day.
Right.
And it takes a toll on their health. So it's not only the mental part of it as far as that fight or flight response, but also just the physiological that happens to
Mhm.
teachers, whether it's, stress induced cardiac issues or it can be thyroid issues. I mean, there's just so many different things that come along with that constant, just high motor running the whole time.
So that in our 5-minute reset, one of the things that we suggest that teachers do is find a couple of minutes throughout the day where they can get a little bit of motion in, meaning like some stretching or some breathing
Hmm.
exercises. And personally, for me, one of the things that I built into my life is that my wife and I, we got to take our dog for a walk. And I mean, we go about 20 to 30 minutes every single day, assuming that it's not raining or something like that. Of course, we live in Florida, so we're able to do that. And I think that we have become, even as teachers, we're sort of sedentary in our life. And I don't mean in the classroom, obviously, because we're up and moving. But once we get out of the classroom, we're so tired that we find ourselves sitting down, we're on the phone, or we're doom scrolling, or we're doing all these other things. So how does motion help us as it relates to our nervous system, number one, and also to how we can replace I got to get things done dopamine with the type of dopamine that's healthy?
So that's the basis of exercise, right? And it's also one of the biggest part when you're exercising is if you can turn off all your notifications.
Yes.
That is definitely, if I'm going to give any kind of a New Year's resolution, is I would say turn off those notifications. There's settings on your phone that
Turn
you
it off.
can make it silent and you can just do your thing. So it just gives you a break from that constant input, all the different benefits of exercising from
Yes.
digestion to heart. And even now we're seeing all the research coming out with strokes and just the 30-minute walk a day and
Right.
how that's helping. So it's just a great way to take that break and again to slow down. So make that conscious decision to slow yourself. And that way, that reset can happen instead of just
So
talking about it.
Doc, we got a couple questions. We got time for some questions here.
Yeah, let's do
Here's
it.
a great one right here. Is our friend, let me see if I can get it up there. Is our friend has asked, what if you put up boundaries but other people criticize you?
Mm, okay. I'm going to tell you like I tell my kids.
Yes.
Who cares what they say? Yeah, we got to kind of just stay focused, and our focus is on ourselves. And that's usually I draw like a bullseye target and I
Right.
talk to especially the kids that I work with, like who are in your inner circle? Like let's
Hmm.
talk about them. And if they're concerned about something or if they have something, hopefully it's constructive criticism to give you, then that's fine. But the other ones, I've had plenty people make fun of me for a lot of different things in my life. And thankfully, I embrace like a team whatever mentality.
Right.
Mel Robbins now calls it let them. Really wish I would have done mine before she came out with it. But, anyways, but so let them, right? They want to
Yes.
criticize, criticize. At the end of the day, if I'm doing things that I know are helping me,
Hmm.
then I know that's going to help the people I work with. That's going to help my students. That's going to help my family. It's going to ripple out.
Yep.
That's kind of That's the hard kind of take I take with kind of a question like that.
It's very interesting that Doc mentioned Mel Robbins' Let Them Theory. I've got it sitting out on my couch. I'm most of the way
Mhm.
through it. However, in her Let Them Theory, she has two sides to that. One side is let them, meaning let them do whatever it is that they're going to do. Let them say whatever it is that they're going to say. But the second half of that is let me. How am I going to
Mhm.
respond to the things that they're doing? And in this case, uh, the way I would respond, and it is the way that I respond, is I don't care what you think about my boundaries, okay? Because it wasn't you that woke up with your face paralyzed, with your heart that skips, and you have to go, have echocardiograms and this and that and the other. That was me that woke up that way, right?
Mhm.
Because of chronic stress that just simply wouldn't go away, right? A
Mhm.
nap wouldn't fix it, time off wouldn't fix it, nothing would fix it because my body and brain believed that it was in a war and it was fighting essentially to save my life. And in the process of doing that, it nearly destroyed my life. And by the way, for those of you that are out there, down in the description box, there is a link to the Let Them Theory right there in the box. You can go get it. It takes you right to Amazon. I'm not sure how much it is, a couple bucks, well, it's probably more than a couple bucks. It's Mel Robbins. She gets a lot of money for her books. If it was my book, it'd be like 50 cents, right? But since it's her book, it's probably, I don't know, 15, 16, $17, something like that. So jump down there in the description box and you can pick that up. So, this whole thing of slowing down, I find that teachers really struggle with that because they have the feeling that they're not getting anything done. But if teachers are already overwhelmed, how do they decide what deserves their energy? How can we discipline ourselves to quit trying to fix everything? What do we got to do?
Well, first and foremost, be aware of it. Question, is this definitely something that I need to be involved with right now? Is it something that I can impact? Is it something I can control? How many times are things way out of our control, but we just are determined to grab it and not let go? So we really need to make sure that whatever it is, I mean, there's a lot of times that it's just not mine to fix.
Teachers are by nature, we're mostly fairly compassionate people, but
Mhm.
how do we distinguish between compassion and ownership? What is the difference right there?
The first question I'm going to ask is, how is this impacting you? And if somebody says,
Mm,
"Well, man, I can't sleep. I'm thinking about it all the time and, what if, what if, what if?" then I'm going to throw the flag right then and there and say time out, because if it's impacting your thoughts, if it's
mhm,
disrupting your sleep, if it's impacting your eating habits, whatever it might be impacting, then we need to talk about if you're owning it when it's really not yours to own, perhaps,
mhm.
or if you're just consumed with it. So we have the stories, trust me, of kiddos that are going through a lot, and it can break our hearts in a million pieces. But I have to know, like we all do, what to kind of leave outside my door,
Mhm.
because my kids, my family haven't asked for me to bring that home. But again, it's I have to keep things in perspective, because a lot of the time there's nothing I can do to change it.
I think it's difficult whenever you work in a Title I school system.
Mm,
Doc and I, we used to work together. We don't work at the same place anymore. We're still in the same district. And at the school that we both worked at, you could like see the
mm,
socioeconomic status with your
mhm,
eyes. It's really hard not to absorb that or assimilate that into your life. And I don't want to say that I don't want to say it's Munchausen's or anything like that, but does it
mhm,
kind of mimic Munchausen? Some teachers really want to be needed, and as a result, they just
mm.
go too far.
Well, sometimes yes. And I think that can be anywhere, right? Sometimes the lines get blurred, unfortunately, and in any profession. But
Mhm.
sometimes in teaching, people can go overboard. But again, I think that comes back to, we can all be compassionate and empathetic and caring and help like we can, but we have to understand that there is a line.
So one of the things that bothers me All right. And we actually talk about this a lot, is that the public education system is dependent upon the teacher giving freely of their time. I really think that teachers need to lay down boundaries as it relates to their time. How would that help in not trying to fix everything?
So again, right? So let's even just talk about doctors and nurses. They do what they can on their shifts, which their shifts are crazy, but yes, they do what they can on their shifts. They don't come home and practice, sewing techniques and, whatever else. Now they might read and they might do other things. And granted, I get that, but you have to create that separation. Same thing happens with first responders. Same thing happens with retail workers. Like, you don't need to bring that home. So why are teachers for decades have been expected to bring it all home, grade the papers at home, write the IEPs at home, do all that at home? Well, maybe then in 2026, what you do is you say, okay, this is my work time. And if you want me to write those 25 IEPs, when am I supposed to do that? And it's kind of understanding that, again, not everything is ours to fix. I need to slow down, and I need to be able to say, this is when I can get this work done.
So, for me, and I share this story all the time, is that, it's been almost 4 years ago, I woke up, my face was paralyzed. I thought I had a stroke. My doctor said, no, it's not a stroke. And I said, thank the Lord. And he said, but if you don't do something about your stress is going to do something about you. So 2 weeks before school started, I went in and I sat down with the bosses, and it's a very professional conversation. So I don't want anybody to misunderstand or anything like that. It was very professional. It was very cordial, but I did lay out what I could and could not do, what I would and would not do. And I have never looked back on that. And they have never asked me to cross those boundaries, to their credit. The point is I never felt so good in my entire professional career than what I did that day. And I have never felt better in the almost 3 years opposite of that decision. And I want teachers to hear, you really can draw boundaries. A good, healthy boundary will help free you up, and it will help you as it relates to your decision making, as it relates to what pace you need to be going at that particular time, what things are actually your responsibility versus the things that sometimes our oversensitive and loving hearts get drawn into that we don't have any time for. They will do that. And that's what they did for me. And so down in the description box is one of our resources down there. Again, it's free. It's 100% free. They're always free because Teacher Talk is a free resource. It is a resource called Reclaim Your Boundaries. You can jump down there at any time and you can get that, or you can come back and you can watch this and you can get that. Again, they're free. One of the things, once teachers stop carrying everything, they face one unavoidable truth. Students still need correction. But we are in an interesting age. We did a podcast a while back on student violence and verbal aggression towards teachers. We are in a difficult age as it relates to dealing with students. So what is the best way to bring correction today in the classroom in 2026?
I tell every single teacher I've ever worked with, I would make sure that you have structure and consistency, right? So this isn't a blame game. This is, let's structure for success.
Right.
And let's make those connections with the kids as best you can. That's not saying it's your responsibility to befriend every child, but it is a great way to connect with the kids. So, and I always say this with a little bit of caution. Kids are like, dogs, right? And if you watch Cesar Millan, and I love my dog whisperer, he loves to say, how they can sense what the owners or what the handlers are feeling or doing. It's no different in the classroom. And in fact, fun fact, if you go to SeaWorld, some people don't like SeaWorld, but whatever, if you want to work with animals, you don't go and get a degree in like animal studies. What you do is a lot of them get a degree in child psychology. because it's the same kind of thing. So again, it comes back to that connection. It comes back to consistency and structure, and it comes back to being able to, say what you mean what you say, but don't say it means.
So I want to be like super careful, because a lot of times when teachers are having trouble with a student in the classroom, a lot of times the admin wants to throw it back in their face because they have no answer, really.
Mhm.
So the go-to is, well, you need to build a relationship. And I just want to say right here, so that all of our teachers can hear, that yes, relationships are important, but relationships don't always take care of students who are chronically disrespectful, who are verbally aggressive, or who tend towards violence towards others. So if you have worked to build a relationship and you still have a student that will not come into that relationship and is not able to be corrected, I want you to know that that's not your fault. That is not your fault. Now, the thing that I think that is so cool about connection and relationship is that the relationship is what actually protects the teacher from burnout the most. Of all the things that we're going to talk about, it's the connection that does that. And here's the reason why, is because when the teacher and student are in a good relationship with each other, guess what's not happening in the room? There's no conflict. All right. The conflict, I believe, wears teachers out the most. The constant interruptions of being pulled off task and then having to use your brain power to get yourself back on task. The more relationships that you can build with students, the less friction you're going to have in the classroom. And when you do have friction, it's a lot easier to get back on course than what it is when there is no relationship. Now, strong boundaries and relationships are extraordinarily important. So is slowing down and not taking on everything as if it's your own. But I want to talk about a tool that teachers need to utilize to avoid burnout and increase student outcomes. Teachers need to learn to master AI. And I know that I have just crossed into the world of anathema right here.
Here it comes.
I can remember 2 years ago at our school talking about using AI in my job. And I'll never forget, everybody said, "John, you're a cheater. You just don't want to put in the work. You're lazy." And I said, "No, I still have to work. I just want to 10x my work." That's what I want to do. And lo and behold, this year in our professional development, guess what one of those sessions was? How to utilize AI to take some of the pressure off of your planning and other things. So there's that. Teachers, I don't know if anybody out there, if you're using AI, I would like to hear from you about it. If you think that AI is the devil and that we should all just burn our computers up, I'd like to hear that from you right here in the chat box, just because I want to know what you think. Doc, if we can X ourselves with AI and it's authentic, should we do that? I want to know.
I think we should work smarter and not harder. Again, I'm not saying to let it do everything for us, because I don't want that brain rot. I want to still make sure that things are mine, just like you said. So I use it a lot of the times just to clean up things. But I do know that sometimes it's great for if there's a lesson that I know I want to really kind of hit home with the kids, I can throw in everything that it is that I want. And it gives me things that usually I didn't even think of. So I think it's not an all or nothing. I think it's more of a gray area to use it for what it's worth and to benefit and not, to alleviate some of that stress.
So I'd like to suggest to everybody one AI source, Notebook LM. If you haven't heard of it, you can jump off of here. You can Google it or whatever, but Notebook LM. All right. Notebook LM is tremendous. And the reason why is because you can take all of your documents, say all of your lesson plans for, gosh, I don't know, however long you've had, digital lesson plans. You can upload every single one of your lesson plans. You can go into Notebook LM and you can ask it a question, right? and
Mhm.
it'll pull up all the information you need. Also, you can use that to create your slides, okay? Because before you had to go to like Gamma and all kinds of other places, it'll create your slides, it'll create infographics for you if you want to try to explain something to your students in a picture type of way, in a timeline type of way. Number 4, it'll use your information and create a back and forth dialogue podcast, audio podcast, or a video podcast that you could literally play in front of your class, right? For your students to watch a debate back and forth, maybe on a topic or a lecture on a topic, stuff that you no longer have to do. It's your stuff. You created it, you put it there, but AI is turning it into something that it never could have been. Also, in that resource, you can create flashcards, you can create quizzes, the whole 9 yards. It's your stuff. No more going over to Kahoot, no more going over to the what are some of those other
Teacher pay
things that we
teacher.
use? Teacher pay teacher and all that other stuff. It's all yours right there. So here's the thing, even with tools and boundaries and connections, there really is a danger that persists that's hard to overlook. And I wrote it down right here because I didn't want to forget it. And I just put this down. If you don't guard your heart, you will become a casualty of the system. Our guiding verse at Teacher Talk is Proverbs chapter 4, verse number 23. It says, above all else, guard your heart, for from it flow the issues of life. One of the things that I discovered in retrospect, in reflection, is that part of the reason why I experienced such a high level of burnout is because I had become so disgruntled as a human being. I didn't have appropriate boundaries. I didn't set aside time. I didn't take care of myself. There were things that I wanted professionally, and they weren't coming to me. My problem was 100% internal, and that internal problem made an external manifestation when my face went paralyzed, my heart doesn't half beat right, and this and that and the other. And I want teachers to know that, first of all, teaching is tough. Students are tough. Admins are difficult. Parents are nuts. Students can be nuts. All of those things are true. And we can't control a single one of them. The only thing that we can really do is guard our heart. And when I say heart, what I mean is the individual, the person who you are, that person on the inside that nobody else knows. And the reason why we have to guard it is because if it becomes bitter, our life is bitter. If it becomes angry, our life is angry. If it becomes jealous, we become jealous. And so, Doc, I'm just wondering, what's the difference between being tired
Mhm.
and just being hardened? Is there a difference?
Think there is a difference. And I think one of the biggest things is, I go back to awareness, is understanding and we need to be honest with ourselves and how we're feeling. I think we're taught to kind of push through it. It's almost, we get into
Mm,
that survival mode, and it's every
yes.
school year. It's make it to Thanksgiving break, make it to winter break, make it to spring break, make it to summer break. So
Mhm.
we're always like, we've got that carrot out in front of us, always trying to get us there. So we kind of beat ourselves into the ground. So I think it's a combination of just really looking at how you're living and what is it, are there aspects of your life that you think you would need some
Mhm.
growth in? And then that's when I think you have to look at your support system, and you have to also look to see if you need something beyond a support system. Do you need to talk to a counselor? Do you need to talk
Mhm.
to a coach? Do you need that accountability partner? Do you have those people at work? My office door was always open, and I had
Mhm.
the smallest office, but I had a lot of the times the most people in my office. Why? Because sometimes we just needed to come in there and be with each other, just to kind of, hey man, can you really believe this is happening? Oh, but are you okay? I'm okay,
Right.
and chocolate helps everything. So yeah, so I just think we need a lot of awareness when it comes to our emotions and being honest with ourselves.
I think that Doc makes a Wonderful point that oftentimes in education as teachers, we do take up the perspective of just push on, just keep going. I gotta double down and I gotta work harder. If I can just make it to the break, or if I get over to here, everything's going to be okay. Only for us to make it to the break or to push through to the next thing, and it's still not okay. And as a matter of fact, that is, in my estimation, what causes us to become harder and harder and harder.
Mhm.
And we've all met that teacher in the hallway. They are so jaded.
Mm.
They are so angry,
Angry, yeah.
right? You can't hardly stand to be around them.
No.
The students can't stand to be around them. Everybody would like to get rid of them, but you can't. Now, if that's you, right? I'm not saying it is, but if that's you, you got to have some introspection here and look at your heart and the condition of your heart and whatever it is that has happened. I can tell you that that was me
Mm.
for sure. And it took a lot of introspection, all right, to be able to make a change. The scripture is clear, Guard your heart above all else, because from it flow the issues of life. And if we're not careful, we can find ourselves in a bad spot right there. So it also speaks to, I think, Doc, the importance of protecting our identity and not just our energy, because I find, and
Mm.
maybe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of teachers, me included, maybe you included, oftentimes our identity gets wrapped up in what we do versus who we are. Do you think
Mhm.
there's any truth to that at all?
Absolutely. And one of the first things I ask all of my clients is, what do you do for fun? What are your hobbies? Don't tell me that, okay, I'm a biomechanical engineer, I'm this, I'm a teacher, I'm a bus driver, I'm whatever. That's what you do. But who are you? Like, what do you enjoy doing? What do you enjoy being a part of? And so often we don't have anything. People get up, they go to work. It's kind of like the Truman Show. Get up, go to work, do what you got to do, come home, do
Mhm.
this, eat dinner, go to bed, get up, and it's this kind of monotonous thing. So that too comes back to connection. When I talk about connection, it's where are you connected even in life? Do you have something in your community that you're connected to? Do you serve others? Do you
Mhm.
help in other ways? Maybe you help out with family members.
Mhm.
How are you with neighbors? Whatever, what have you. But there's also groups. There's groups for everything. Good gravy. If you go on
That's right.
Facebook, there's a group for anything and everything. Maybe you like
Anything
to
and
take
everything.
anything. So, and maybe you like to take pictures, maybe you like to paddleboard, whatever it might be, but there's got to be another connection outside of what you do as your profession.
I think it's okay for teachers to finally say, "Hey, I love teaching. I love my students, but when I am not here, I'm just old John, right? And I'm going to go out in the
Mhm.
garage, or I'm going to sit down, I'm going to make a YouTube video, or I'm going to, whatever it is that you do, go catch a big pile of fish," which is a great thing to do, by the way. Whatever it is that you do, go do that. Right. And Doc also made, it's a very important point, is that you have to belong somewhere. Okay. I'm 100% advocate. And again, we're not trying to offend anybody, but I think everybody ought to belong to a local church, right? I think that you got to have a group of people that you're around, where you hear instruction, where you hear correction, where you can worship the Lord. I think those things are important, but you can even have groups beyond that. A lot of times, we have a little group there at our workplace, me and Doc and a couple others, and we get on the text message. Sometimes it's a rant, sometimes it's a bunch of TikTok videos.
Oh
Sometimes,
gosh.
I hate to say it, but it may delve into gossip from time to time. All right, but it's between us, and it's for us. It's a place to vent. You have to have that. One of the things, I put it up there on the screen, is that we have a teacher talk community. We actually have a couple of them. One of them is free. You can use that URL or that QR to get to it, and you can be a part of that community. We send out, some updates and I think we send out a newsletter once a week, and our blog and other things. It's just a community where you can belong. It's free. It's 100% free, and it's always free. But we also have another community over here. This is the only thing that we have that's paid, and it's because I got to pay the bills. I got to tell you, It costs a fortune to keep this thing going, and because of the kind and generous donations of people just like you, we have been able to reach almost 500,000 teachers this year. Think of that, 500,000 teachers in 1 year, all because of you. And it's teachers just like you that we want to reach. Now, Doc, I'm just curious if you had every teacher's ear in America right now, what would you say to them? What would you tell them?
Okay. Well, no pressure. First and foremost, start taking care of you.
Yes.
That's first and foremost. The rest, I mean, we can talk stats, but we don't want you to become one of the stats.
Yep.
So we just really I just think it's time to focus on you. And this is not a selfish thing. This is a growth thing. In order for you to kind of figure out what does make sense, what is going to work, what your boundaries even are. I mean, we talk about boundaries all the time, but if you really haven't spent time talking with somebody about that, then I don't know if you really know what your boundaries are, because I go back to connections. A lot of the times I might have an idea about myself, and we need to talk to others to bounce that off in order to kind of get that plan.
Yes, absolutely.
And to have that accountability. So really, I think it's time for teachers in 2026 to really kind of take a step back, take a look at how this profession is impacting them, note what they can change, make some changes, make those connections, and slow down. What are you doing to take care of yourself?
I think if I could talk to every teacher in America and what they should do for 2026 is I would say this: when the bell rings, go home. Go home. The work will still be there. You'll never get all the work done. So just go home. Number 2, if you have the days, take them. Take the days. Take care of yourself. Number 3, if your organization is toxic or unhealthy, go ahead and get your exit plan together and find another school. Okay, I don't want you to quit teaching. That's our whole purpose here. We don't want teachers to quit teaching. That's why we say stay strong and keep teaching. But you don't have to teach where you currently are teaching. Be brave, put a plan together, and go somewhere else. The very best thing that you and I can give to our students, to our principal, and to our organization is the most healthiest version of ourselves possible. And we cannot give the most healthiest version of ourselves possible if we work ourselves to death, if we refuse to slow down, if we refuse to 10x our work through AI, if we take on every problem known to man that isn't ours to take on, if we fail to guard our heart. We can't do those things in that kind of condition. Get the best, healthiest version of yourself and let that be enough. Now, one of the things, and I don't hardly ever say it, but since we're all here, what I like to say is some of you may be struggling. All right. Doc's info is down in the description box, and you can reach her there right through her YouTube channel. So you can get you right there. Doc Pender's all about solutions. You can also scan right here. And I offer coaching. It's the only paid service that I have. And I would love for you to book a discovery call with me, and let's get you to the healthiest version that you could possibly be. It took me 3 years in a coaching relationship to become the healthiest version that I could possibly be, because that's how bad it got. Okay. Now, some of the other work that we've done that might interest you, if you want to know about, the reasons for burnout and the things that are affecting teachers, right up there are 2 videos for you to watch. One's going to be about violence against teachers. The other one's going to be about aggression against teachers. Every teacher I know has faced one or the other. So go watch those videos. And until we see you next Sunday, stay strong and keep teaching.